It's the 21st show. I'm Brian Mackey. Maytag in Galesburg, Solo Cup in Urbana, Motorola in Harvard, Zenith in Chicago, General Motors in Danville. These were all American companies that had manufacturing facilities in Illinois, but not anymore. And in the case of Zenith and one half of Motorola, they aren't even owned by American based companies anymore. All this follows a national trend that we first began to see a generation ago, where manufacturing jobs were taken away from Illinois and Illinoisans and given instead to workers elsewhere in America or factories in other countries. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the number of manufacturing jobs has been flat, but American manufacturing output has actually increased. With that in mind, we come to the present day, when the second Trump administration says one of the policy objectives of his tariffs is to bring more manufacturing back to the United States. Economic experts say any such changes would take quite some time to bring about significant growth in the manufacturing sector. Tariff supporters, meanwhile, argue making more products in-house is a national security priority and would result in more jobs in the future. So for the rest of the hour today, we're going to take a listen back to a conversation we first had on the state of manufacturing in Illinois and America through the lens of a company that has made that the essence of its business model. Mark Andol is the owner of General Welding and Fabricating, and he's also the founder and owner of the Made in America store in Elma, New York, and online. As the name suggests, the store only sells products that have been 100% made in America, and each product has to meet a strict guideline to meet the Made in America criteria. We'll get into what exactly that criteria is. I should note this is a conversation we first aired in May, so we're not taking calls live today, but you can always let us know what you thought. Our email address, talk@21stshow.org. All right, Mark, let's talk about the store. How did this come about?
Yeah, so again, thanks for having me on, Brian. Yeah, I opened the Made in America store. I'm about 40 years in business. Back in 2007, my General Welding and Fabricating hit a bump in the road. I was my parents grew up poor. I was the erector set kid. Loved to take things apart, batteries, whatnot. Ruined my mom's rug. Always playing with things and building things. In 1985, I opened my first business, Mark Small Engine and Welding Repair, but a Mr. Fix-It-On Road. It was a mobile service. I'd go to people's house, fix whatever they needed, their lawnmower, their light bulb out, whatever. Mr. Fix-It. And then about 1989 became General Welding and Fabricating, just a small company at that point. But our motto was, "You dream it, we build or repair it," and that got me in a lot of trouble. And we built the company from 1989 to 2007 to have four plants, manufacturing and fabricating plants in Western New York. 70 employees. Of the 70 employees, 18 family members, three guys I went to kindergarten with. So very tight group. I didn't say no to nothing, just kept building up. But in 2007, I want to mention we built like the largest sculpture in the country for Albert Paley at the St. Louis Zoo. Pretty neat sculpture. It's 60 animals, and the material is quarter-inch to 2-inch thick, and some neat projects. And but in 2007, we hit a bump in the road. I was making a steel post that went inside PVC or plastic fencing. That fencing was load bearing. If it's used on a deck of a condo or any railing, most of that plastic PVC fencing needs a structure inside of it, a steel structure, and it has to be BOCA certified and load bearing, a quality item. So I was making that. I had a plant to produce the product, a $3 to $4 million account, and I got a call in the fall of 2007. My customer wanted to lower that, or wanted me to lower that price, and I couldn't go below cost. So I said, "Do what you have to do." They said, "We have a manufacturer in Florida. They can manufacture it." I said, "Okay, so be it." So they went to Florida, but it wasn't Florida. It was ended up being China. China made the part, and it was an inferior product in my eyes, and shipped it to Florida and took over my 6 regional support centers. And I found myself out of that account within a week or so. And then the recession of 2008, 9, and 10 hit. Things got tough. I lost my oil mining work, my military work. I sell snowplows, and it didn't snow that year, and just a tough year. So I ended up over the period of 2 years, 2008, 9, laying off about 40 of my 70 employees.
Oh,
That's
wow.
family members. Closed 2 of my 4 plants, and towards the end of 2009, I said, "This is tough." I went through my own retail showroom in General Welding, and I said, I had my guys help me. What do we make here? I mean, what's America making? And I only in my showroom it was only about 20% was made in America. I said we got to do something about it. So I came up with an idea. And April 3rd, 2010, I opened the Made in America store. I had went across the street. It was an out of business Ford dealership at the time. I asked the owner, Jay Fisher, would you rent this to me? He said, what are you going to do? I said, open a Made in America store, make a statement for our country, soldier, American worker, God above, and our children's future. And it was funny. We only had 50 products at the time, and I made it a concept or core value. I said it has to be 100% made in America. Not really knowing what I was getting into, but I required letters of authenticity to make sure every part and component was 100%. And not, I knowing I want 50-50 fair trade, but I did that. And, you fast forward over 15 years, we're just celebrating our 15 years now. We're at 15,100% products and support 500 privately owned American businesses. So pretty neat. We support our veterans. My buddy was a Marine and he built the Iwo Jima sculpture. And one thing led to another. We're home base for Buffalo Niagara Honor Flight. We get tour buses, Brian, from all over the country.
And I was looking at your website. Yeah, it looks like you're a tour destination. I get that. All right, so we have
from Chicago. Yep.
Okay, we have to take a break on the show. We're going to come back and talk more about this. I want to get into how you actually determine if something is made in America. Because I've talked to people about this, and they say it's one thing to manufacture it in America, but once you start looking at the entire supply chain, as you indicated, that becomes trickier. All right, we need to take a short break on the program. When we come back, more with Mark Andol, the founder of the store, premised on the idea of Made in America, and it's called Made in America. He also owns General Welding and Fabricating. This is the 21st Show. Stay with us. It's the 21st Show. I'm Brian Mackey. We're listening back to my conversation with Mark Andol, founder of the Made in America store. As the name suggests, it's a store that sells products that have been 100% made in America. And with so much talk these past months about bringing manufacturing jobs back to America, we thought we could get insight into his work, how he built up the store, and how easy or difficult it really is to buy fully in America. Because the program's on tape today, we're not taking calls live, though we did take some calls when we first aired this back in May. Nevertheless, you can let us know what you think. Our voicemail line is 217-300-2121, 217-300-2121. All right, Mark, how do you qualify something to be 100% made in America?
Yeah, it's a great question. We take a product and we ask people, they got to supply a letter of authenticity stating where each component of the product is made. So not only the product, but with one product, you might have 10, 15 components. So all the components to be in our store have to be made in America. So we send out 3 letters. One is stating where each component is. They have to do it. We ask for a CNC certificate of compliance to make sure all these parts are made in America. And then we bring them in the store. And if they change a part, we actually, take them out of the store. So it's been quite a process. Again, we started with about 50 products. We're up to 15,000. But a lot of mom and pops, a lot of, even if you go to Channel Lock Tools, a great company out of Meadville, PA, we got a lot of companies right from around your area, Estwing, Hammer, Green Toy, Libben, Loggerhead, all make great products. So it's kind of neat, but we require these letters of authenticity before, a lot of them send us a product. We take a look at it, then we require the paperwork. Sometimes, we don't get the calls back. We don't get the paperwork back because, we're very strict on every product to get in the store because we've done the homework. Anything in the Made in America store or at madeinamericastore.com you visit is 100% made in America, and people respect that. But the tour buses that come, we welcome all buses, but when they come, they love to see what Americans are making. A lot of our stuff's nostalgic. They have a lot of fun. Making things in America is cool, or just making things, period, Brian, is cool. We support entrepreneurs, inventors. Pretty neat.
All right, let's go to the phones at 800-222-9455. Frank is calling from Normal, Illinois on line 1. Frank, thanks for calling in.
Well, thank you.
So I understand you make a deli slicer? Talk about it. Where do you get your parts?
Well, Well, yeah, if you've ever eaten bacon, it was probably sliced on an Anco slicer. And they started in 1914, but they're real large machines, and they live at Hormel and Kraft. After I sold that business in 2007, I knew that, hey, every phone call I got was, Frank, send me one of your big slicers. I get 50 saying, don't you make anything smaller? So in my retirement, at the age of 65, 5 years ago, we developed the DX Industrial Slicer, which is instead of slicing a ham in 15 minutes, it'll slice it in 15 seconds. One of the important features was it had to be made in America. So here in Normal, Illinois, we source welded parts and machined parts all over the United States. They're brought back to Normal. They're assembled here, and the darn thing's taken off. It's a very good slicer. It's a very good product. People seem to like it, and they like that it's made in America. There are limitations, though. The motors pretty much come from overseas, and that's the only part that's in these machines. But other than that, machine parts. Yep.
Is that because you can't? You think you can't get that type of motor in America?
If you try to source a 1 horsepower DC motor or any of the motors that are in your car that controls your windows, you'll find that they're from a company called Oriental Motors or Leeson, but they're all from China, from Taiwan or from China, or some are from Japan. They just don't make them in the United States anymore. So you do what you can, but you're not at 100%.
Frank, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us.
Great
I appreciate
to hear, Frank.
that. Mark, go ahead. Yeah, I don't know if you want to respond to what he had to say.
Yeah, it's great, and it's funny. So out of my 15,000 products, Brian, supporting over 500 privately owned businesses, we have nothing that plugs in or takes a battery. And, I always say, we've been to the moon, but we can't build a toaster, a coffee pot, a lamp. Again, my store is 100%. Everybody can't be 100%. I believe in 50-50 fair trade. But like to what Frank's saying, very hard to get electrical components here. There's a few, but expensive. So we have to work. I know they got the chip factories they're building, and manufacturing, Brian. I think with 3D printing and automation and technology, all these things have to be added to our new manufacturing plants that I think are going to come.
Talk about how this is something I think gets lost in some of these. People say, where did the manufacturing jobs go? The manufacturing jobs that people could get are not going to be the ones that, like my grandfather, it was a foreman at an International Harvester plant in Chicago. Oh, yeah. Everything is so much more automated nowadays, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm a manufacturer, I build trailers. I manufacture trailers, juice presses, things like that. So I love work like General Welding, and my parent company is always looking for work. And Buffalo used to be one of the largest cities, in the 19th century. So I mean, there's a lot of manufacturing, but since the 80s, I want to say 5 million plus manufacturing jobs are gone. Manufacturing was the heart of America. I laugh. I heard George Washington wanted all his clothes made here. Abraham Lincoln, they wanted the railroad and the tracks here. So this is no new concept, but manufacturing, I think there's a lot of spokes to it. Our favorite shirt was the Made in America store because China's a long drive to work, Brian. I came up with that 15 years ago. Every bus laughs and cheers. And, again, we're not an R&D store. We're not red or blue, or red, white, and blue, we say, right? So we have fun, but manufacturing is like the heart of America, and I truly believe with a lot of things, I think we can talk about the skilled trade shortage, schools. I'd like to get into that, Brian, a little bit, and just talk about all these legs. I call it like spokes to rebuilding this manufacturing. But over 3-4 decades, manufacturing went down. But I think we got the best workers and employees in the world, and I think the new skilled tradesmen. The younger youth I have a lot of incentive, different programs I work with, internships. These kids got to know computers, and they got to be sharp. And I think there's a stigma that was put on, I want metal shops, wood shops back in schools. I want kids exposed to, building things and working with their hands in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade in, public schools like I was. And then at least they can make a decision on which direction they want to go, because I'll tell you, the skilled tradesmen, there's such a shortage. They're making top money, top dollar, and they got to be sharp. I do believe we got the best American workers in the world, and we can get manufacturing back if we all work towards it and make it. Everybody's got to do their part, though, Brian.
Well, let's talk about that because I know that, Rivian, for example, the electric car maker based in Bloomington, Mitsubishi abandoned a plant and then it took a few years, but Rivian comes in. They're making EV cars here in Illinois. They have a hard time finding workers. And so this is something you do here. Yeah. Do people want to make toasters in America, right? People maybe want toasters made in America, but do they want to make the toasters themselves? What do you say to that?
Yeah, so I think, my dad's 88, still going. He worked at Bethlehem Steel Ford Motor Company. My mother worked at Foresight, which was a subdivision or made parts for Fisher Price Toys, which is 5 minutes from me in Buffalo here. So, she made different parts, but a lot of that when Mattel bought Fisher Price, they went overseas with everything. Yeah, I think the demand has decreased, but in my store, when seeing people, when they see Made in America, they said, wow, your prices aren't that out of a line. And, Channel Lock's doing it. Estwing Hammer's doing it. We got a lot of companies still doing it. And a lot of people say, you just sell T-shirts and yo-yos. I said, no, General Welding, I need work. I want to make the windmills here. They're all made overseas. I want to make, the submarines here, the cruise ships. There's a lot of things that America got out of. But again, I think the skilled trade work shortage has to be addressed. If there's tariffs, if we just talked about China, I think we got to level that playing field for sure. China, I think we shipped out, we bought $450 billion from China, and they've only spent $100 billion with us, say. So we're out of balance for sure. I would love zero tariffs and we just all make top quality products. Not a lot of people go overseas for a quality product. I think America, consumers have a lot of power. They can make change with just a purchase, but we do have to increase the demand. And we do all have to take this serious. And I think it's new technology, 3D printing, again, a lot of different automation, but the workers, the school, our education system has to school and make working with your hands and skilled trades okay. And it's maybe parents, Brian, have to make that change.
Let me remind listeners, it's the 21st show. I'm Brian Mackey. We're listening back to our conversation with Mark Andol, founder of the Made in America store, which sells, well, stuff that's been 100% made in America. So let's talk about, there is this idea out there that maybe, and I think this took hold for people of a certain age. I was raised in the 80s and 90s, that America and products are not as good. This was all throughout the pop culture. We actually have a little clip. This is from Back to the Future Part 3, released in 1990. And the second is from the TV show The Simpsons, 1994.
Unbelievable that this little piece of junk could be such a big problem. No wonder this circuit failed. It says made in Japan.
What do you mean, Doc? All the best stuff is made in Japan.
Unbelievable.
Hey, look, Homer's got one of those robot cars.
One of those American robot cars.
All right, Mark, address this idea out there, right? And for people who maybe don't remember those clips, that's Doc from the 1950s talking to Marty from the 80s or 90s, I guess. And obviously The Simpsons is an American show, but, American stuff, it's just not as good.
Yeah, see, I don't believe that. I think our quality products are top notch. Even all the product in my store, one thing we lead with is quality. I think we became a throwaway world. And, we wanted it. We wanted all types of different, crap in our in our homes. But I do think we lead with quality. I think we make a heck of a product. I know we do here at General Welding, and my team's, I'm blessed with a great team that's very skilled, but we need high skilled workers right now that are highly trained. So our education system, I'd love to see any tariff money used to helping our education system get the skilled trade schools up and running more and have incentives for young men and women to, join these schools. I know I've got a public school locally that Bulldog Manufacturing out of Alden. They have the whole the whole ball of wax in there. You could be an entrepreneur. They produce their own product and they sell it in this high school, which is neat, and they're taking it seriously. I believe, we got top workers, top quality. I think we have to have, my dad, had a fishing pole that would last you, 50 years. Still, I'm trying to find a fishing pole alone that's made in America 100%. If you lead with quality, it's a culture change I think we have. If you buy a garden hose that's good, made by Goodyear, lasts you 50 years, $50 maybe. If you buy one every year for $10, so I believe in leading with quality, buy a better quality tool, but made in America to me is top quality.
We had one more caller from Carbondale, Andrew, but I think we're so close to being at the end of time. I'm just going to paraphrase. I'm sorry, Andrew. Thank you so much for calling in. But he wants to know about the role of unions, for example. Where are these factories being made? And the bigger question, I guess, is if you pay people more to make these things, doesn't the cost of goods go up? You addressed this briefly earlier, but talk about that.
Yeah, I think we've got to pay a fair wage to our worker. My dad was middle class, and again, our middle class kind of blue collar worker got destroyed. But I always say my father, we had an extra car and a swimming pool. The middle class was strong. I think there has to be a fair wage, but I think we can, with top quality automation, 3D printing, new technologies. I think we can get our factories to run even smoother and more efficiently, and produce a better part and give a good wage. I think it has to be done by a good hardworking team. I got all different ability people in my General Welding, but we all at the end of the day, one team, one goal, put out a great product.
Last thing I want to ask you about, and we are almost out of time, but you make the case that this is a more eco-friendly way to get products into people's hands, right?
Yes, yeah. I do. I just believe in our mission. Our mission is to create and save quality livelihoods in the United States of America by increasing American manufacturing for our children's future. I love, support and skilled trades. I'm on the board of about 4 or 5 schools, and people when they're made, they get to work on a product and make a product. It's rewarding. It's pretty neat. But a lot of our kids these days weren't even exposed to it. So a lot going on. But I do believe it's a part of our economy. I think the manufacturing is a hub of the American fabric and needs to be addressed. And I think, there's awareness going on now. And our whole goal is to increase the demand on Made in America products so all our vendors can do better.
All right. I want to thank our guests today. Mark Andal is the owner of General Welding and Fabricating, our guest, I should say. Thank you so much for being with us. And I should say, the proprietor of the Made in America store. You can find that just by Googling that phrase, or maybe you'll be taking a bus trip there someday. Mark, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Brian, very much.
And that's it for us today. Coming up on tomorrow's program, have you noticed your electric bill looking significantly higher this summer? There's a reason why that's the case, but there's been a lot of misinformation spread on who is to blame. We're talking about what's really behind the rate hike and what you can do about it. The 21st Show is produced by Christine Hatfield, Harrison Malkin, and Jose Zepeda. Our digital producer is Kulsum Khan. Technical direction and engineering comes from Jason Croft and Steve Mork. Reginald Hardwick's our news director. The 21st Show is a production of Illinois Public Media. I'm Brian Mackey. Thanks for listening. We'll talk with you again tomorrow.